Hello, Andrew. Nice to meet you in cyberspace. This will be some video feedback for week 3, but I'll also look at the wireframes from last week's peer review. In general, I follow the rubrics pretty closely. There's not too many categories in 3.2 or 3.3. There's only 2 really. But in the rubric for the journal entry, there's quite a few. You can open up the rubric and just go down the categories to see how I've discussed them or addressed them. Andrew, your wireframes are very clear. They're skeletal, as they should be, but they're nicely formatted, and I appreciate the time that you took to actually make some nice diagrams here. In general, I like the ones where the navigation is towards the top. For me, when you embed the navigation in the middle, it could be interesting, but remember, you probably want the navigation to appear in the same place on every page. So this may be okay for a menu page, but for an about page, to have this much space taken up by the navigation in the middle of the page, it might not work. I'm glad you're experimenting though, so don't let me discourage you in any way. Now these, again, you've got the navigation sort of spread out around the middle of the page. You want to avoid, if at all possible, have the navigation appear in its entirety on the first screen of information, and it should appear in its entirety on every page. You can have it ranged down, but it takes up valuable vertical space. What might be ideal is to have the logo off to the left, and then have the navigation in a bar off to the right. Now, I hope that these websites don't look alike. So I'm not discouraging you. If you prefer, say, this arrangement, see if you can get it to work, and I certainly won't penalize you. Andrew, I mean, it's pretty amazing what you've done so soon. So clearly you have some experience here. Now remember, this assignment was about inline styling. It's probably the least. You should do the least of it. It's really hard to, it's easy to make inline styles, harder to get rid of them. I see that you graduated already to an external style sheet. I'm viewing your website in Safari for the Macintosh, and I can see the code along with a live preview. You've got background images. You've got this neat scrolling thing going on here, where as the page scrolls up, the images are replaced. So not sure where you found that JavaScript, but it sure is cool. Now it looks like you've got a lot of other things that anticipate week 6. I see that you have meta names, keyword searches. That's a week 5 thing. Had you worked on this earlier? I also see that you've got your unordered list, which has become your navigation scheme. Nice job. And you're using the div tag to organize your page. So you're using external style sheets and also very precise ways of placing your ingredients. I see that you've got links to your images. Don't forget about inline styling. Don't forget about embedded style guides or style sheets too, because those are in terms of understanding, you need to proceed through those steps in order to get to this stage. Nonetheless, I see that you paid attention to the HTML5 tutorial. Just curious where else you've gotten some of the features in your site. One of the things I really like about it is your use of the slab serif in the typography. It may not be one of the corporate fonts, but it sure isn't one of the standard web fonts that we get so tired of seeing. So kudos to you. In terms of the rubric, you met them and then some. You have added some style to a head, and you've used the corporate palette. I'm assuming that this is one of Pasta Amore's corporate colors, the brown coffee color, and you've been able to upload it. Good job. Andrew, this is a really nice package of screenshots and the like. Your visual sitemap is simple. It seems to have 3 levels. With your competence, you'd probably be able to create all or finish all 3 levels. But just know that for the purposes of this class, if you have a home page and then maybe 3 or 4 links and pages off that, that's certainly adequate. That way you wouldn't have to divide up the menu if you didn't want to. Then scrolling down here, I see that you have your coded sitemap, or the beginnings of one. you have each of your pages has a URL, even if it's only a dummy URL. So good going on that. Now the rubric is binary, like the 3.3 rubric, and it says, do you have a properly coded sitemap? I see that you do. And the other thing it asks is, do you have evidence of file management? And I see a picture of presumably your desktop as well as the server. Now, are you using 000 web host? That's fine. If you're able to get things on and off that particular server, it's fine. It's not necessary to use GeoCities for this class. So even though the rubric says, have you included a appropriate file management structure, or have you uploaded it to GeoCities, I will allow other web hosting services. I understand the difficulties associated with GeoCities. It takes forever to refresh sometimes too, probably because of its distance. And in your journal, you have identified the demographics based on your client statement. You've thought of some questions to ask not only the focus group but also the client themselves. Think about expanding your focus group to include perhaps kitchen staff or wait staff. Certainly, if the restaurant is takeout, the work processes or workflows will probably want to be examined. You have considered other types of market research. Think about some of the ones that are under our nose. They include the U.S. Census, Nielsen, and also Google Analytics. I like some of the questions you asked about Caponata. I like that. It's very specific. SurveyMonkey, yes, it's very useful for making surveys of target groups, focus groups. And think about some other more technological survey methods that might be approachable for designers such as ourselves.